back to another video. Today I have a really nice what if to share with you all. What if Peril was a hybrid? Along with this fighter's iconic and deadly fire skills ability, she has a secret part of herself that Scarlet has always brushed off as useless, and something she even needs to hide. But what happens if Peril lets her RainWing half show? There are quite a lot of changes in this alternate reality, so I can't wait to share everything with you guys. Thank you so much to Slink for pitching this idea, and to Starry Skies for illustrating this beautiful and colorful piece. I cannot even begin to express how much I love it. But before we begin, a huge shout out to my patrons. Dervlever95, Thistle, Noopto, Pirate Nuke, Avril, Pancake, Escarada, Adequin, Alex Cleaver, Shadow Hunter, and Atlas Stargazer. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Peril had always felt wrong. Maybe it started the day her queen first ordered her to murder a dragon in the arena. Perhaps it was the rush of blood leaking from his scales and how it pooled under her talons that caused something in the Skywing to change. Maybe it was when she forgot to eat her black rocks, and Scarlet sealed her away as punishment. No more skies, no freedom, no place where Peril could be free from the harm she brought the world by only existing. Or maybe it was what the dragon had worried about all along, that something inside her was broken from the beginning. The best part of Peril's supposed gift, however, came with the fact no one could see her tears, especially not the Grand Queen of the Kingdom. If Scarlet saw how much Peril struggled to shift the colors of her scales, she would surely be punished once more. It was not every patch of her body, just toward the tip of her tail. But regardless, Peril knew of the danger that would abound if the dragons, seated like vultures above, saw such an impurity. Skywings were red, orange, or yellow. That is the only way they could be, and it was all Peril told herself she had to be, crimson all over. And yet, the scales on her back half refused to cooperate. They had a mind of their own, flashing hues against Peril's struggling will. If someone saw another color, even briefly, it would be her end. And then, maybe something really would have been wrong with the young dragon from the start. It would prove everyone was right about her. She could see the way they felt by the looks in their eyes. So, Peril practiced indifference. The calmer her muscles and body, the less those scales shifted from their usual red. Everything was perfect when that happened. Peril could finally be the champion Scarlet told her she was born as. She could be a warrior for the Skywings, and one of them. It just came with difficulty. And truthfully, she had no idea why. Peril was brought out of her near stupor with unforgiving suddenness. "Fight, you stupid Skywing!" a dragon snarled, lashing its venomous tail barb at Peril's side. Could one hit of it take them both down at once? Would it be a sacrifice for the Sandwing tribe, and possibly the world, to rid Pyria of such ferocity? Peril was unsure, as no one had ever come close to sticking any sharpness through her scales. She had always burned them before the thought could even flicker through their brain. The fire-scaled dragon dashed to the side, narrowly avoiding Horizon's strike. The bloodied Sandwing puffed out another exhale, shaking his head. His breath came out labored, his body losing the fight before his skin could even start to burn. "Don't you want to just make this easy?" Peril asked anxiously, staring up at the chanting crowd. Their whooping was nearly ear-piercing for a dragon with such sensitive hearing, and they were far too up in the stands to hear the conversation happening in the sand pit below. "Just one touch is all it takes, and this can be over. I promise." Horizon hissed furiously, rearing up for another attack. "I knew my job in this war was too risky. My daughters warned me anyways, begging that I'd stay and never end up in this place. Deep down, I guess I always knew it was inevitable. But to give up? I refuse. Not for them. Not for my wife, and especially not for your queen's crown, and the sickly laughs that burl out from her belly at seeing me so weak I'd step away. Fight me the fair way, you cowardly skywing. You barely even duel like one of your own. Horizon's words cut like a blade, though Peril forced calmer breaths. I can't even risk my tail turning darker. He'd see. Then it'd show even just a dying dragon that I'm not good enough, that I'm not one of them. I don't even know why I am this way. Is it my fire? But I don't feel its heat bubble back there like I do in my talons or my face, flushing out my insides. It's colder, calmer. Makes me feel different. The Sandman kicked up a cloud of dust, running toward Peril one last time, before his body collided with her unforgiving scales. Thick, burning welts began to pop up on every inch of him that touched it, as he let out a scream. Horizon's eyes turned red and bloodshot before they closed. It was scary to Peril how quickly wings, something so beautiful, could disintegrate in a second. And yet, it was a sight the fighter had seen too many times. Horizon was dead. The crowd only cheered louder, bellowing praises and chants that completely missed Peril's ears. With quiet sadness, the arena dragon uncurled her foreign tail and ducked beneath the overpass. Another fight was complete. The Skywing Palace had been frantic today in a way Peril had never seen. Even when Byrne visited from time to time, the place was not in this amount of disarray. Dragons rushed through the halls, armed and chattering away in hushed tones. Peril tried to listen, but they were all too quick, scattering across destinations in the palace. Something was happening, and apparently seriously enough that Skywing guards and advisors barely tried to dash out of Peril's way. For a moment, it felt nice, so the dragon made sure to tuck her wings closer. I wish I could say I'm not a threat to you, she thought sadly. I wish you were like this every day. Except, I am a threat. I'm the one that kills in front of them before dinner. I get why they're scared of me, but I only ever hurt who Scarlet wants me to, no one else. I'm not a violent dragon, but can they ever see me other than what she has me do each day? Peril continued to walk through the stone hallways, staring down at the seemingly endless mountains below. The bridge connecting the many spires to the central tower of the palace was a beautiful path. Only Pyrrhia's strongest birds dared to soar to such heights near the cloud line. After several minutes, the arena fighter finally arrived at the outside of Scarlet's throne room. The queen was already exiting, a smug smile plastered directly on her face. "Ah, my dearest warrior," she said with an unusual calmness. "I see you're already ready for the day?" Peril swallowed dryly, nodding. "Of course, Scarlet. Who's set to appear in the arena tonight? I take it it's a very important prisoner, considering the excitement around." Peril chose her words carefully, worried she may have missed something before. Scarlet's devilish grin only grew wider as she motioned for the fiery dragon to follow her down the hall and toward the great sandpit. "Oh, very important indeed. Have you ever heard of the Dragon of Prophecy, my dear?" The name sounded familiar in a way initially Peril struggled to place. Then it hit her. "I've heard some of our captives sing about that at night when they're chained atop the pillars." "Yes," Scarlet began. "Them and their stupid hope. Well, those children they foolishly sing and dance about have finally entered my clutches. There will be no end to this reign, Peril. Not when you burn them in front of the eyes of this world." The Skywing wished she felt more. Just a few additional dragons in the arena tonight, that's all it was. It had happened before, though it was rarely ever dragonettes. They were traditionally too slippery to catch. Maybe these ones were just slow. Peril shrugged. "I'll handle them, Your Majesty." "Thrilling," Scarlet replied, gold glittering with every step. "These are some interesting dragonettes. I'm delighted to see how you end their lives. I even have Byrne attending this ceremony tonight, just so we can revel in their defeat together. Pyrrhia will be ours soon enough." It was weird, Peril began to think, that these dragonets only had just until before sundown. Anyone would know that was true, especially with the tales of what happened in the Sky Kingdom sandpits. She wondered deep down if it made it easier. Or did they think they stood a chance to motivate the prisoners, even in their last seconds? The thought made Peril slightly sick in a way she usually was not, and the dragon fought to take control of her tail. For the slightest second, it had changed to green. No one else saw, because Peril knew she would be the one dead before sundown, if any dragon did. The excitement from the palace had spread into the arena, every seat full as the sky turned into rare shades. Dragons elbowed each other for room, spreading their wings to reserve seats for their friends and families. Scarlet definitely had promised the entire kingdom and beyond a show that they would never forget. Peril stood at the edge of the pavilion, waiting for a signal from Vermilion that the prisoners would be led into the grand space. They were either still chained to their cells up above, or already being wrestled beneath the fighters' own talons. Amidst the rumbling of so many voices, and the flapping of so many wings, Peril saw a sight off in the distance. Next to Queen Scarlet's throne was a dragon lying so still that the Skywing first thought she was a corpse on display. But no, there was a slight sense of breathing her eyes could pick up on, even so far away. It was gentle. This dragon was alive, chained next to Scarlet as though she were some kind of beautiful trophy or tapestry. The queen did not even glance at this newcomer, who was only secured to the ground by a thin chain. I guess Scarlet thinks she won't be escaping anytime soon, Peril thought. And, well, she herself assumed that was true. Despite this dragon's gorgeous marking and colors, she appeared nearly dead, in a way that was unlike what Peril had observed in long-term prisoners. Before she could continue to look at the new dragon, however, Vermilion's voice redirected Peril's focus elsewhere. It's time for the fight to begin. Peril's talons touched on the stand below, watching as the ground beneath her began to crumble and burn with every step or tail flick. Part of it upset her deep down, the way the sky was her only safe space. And yet, the dragon had her duties to Scarlet to fulfill down here instead. To distract herself in the way Peril worried her tail would begin to shift hues if she dwelled further, the fighter began to wonder what tribes her foes would be. Were these dragonets of destiny rogue sandwings Byrne had captured? Or maybe more seeming royalty, especially now that Gil was still here? However, what the dragon did not expect was what was forced to land before her. A Mudwing, Seawing, Nightwing, and Sandwing, all standing there, disoriented and sad. They eyed each other carefully, peeking back at the mysterious dragons still lying between thin tree branches. Now that Peril was closer, this one that Scarlet had on display was unlike anybody she'd ever seen around the kingdom, prisoner or not. Her scales were bursting with vibrant hues the sun brought out, similar to the picture books Osprey had shown Peril when she was younger. It was a dazzling sight, unfamiliar but welcome, in a way that took the Skywing's breath away. Instinctively, she searched for the faraway prisoner's tail. It was shades just like the ones that lined Peril's scales, if she was not careful. And yet, instead of hiding who she boasted it in a way. Who this stranger was shown proudly across her entire body for the world to see. Is she like me? Peril thought, heart suddenly fluttering. I didn't even know there was anybody else like me in any way. Someone who could change her scales. Scarlet never told me about that. She said I was different in that way. It was bad. The Skywing could have stood there for a millennium, taking in the sight from across the arena field. However, something that was familiar began to trickle into her ears. We have all gathered here tonight to witness the deaths of the Dragonets of Destiny, our enemy's last hope, Vermilion shouted. His voice carried across the crowds, everyone in a hushed whisper to soak in each syllable. Last hope? That's dim, Peril thought. Vermilion continued. Well, we are here to show every tribe on Pyria that the Skywings and the strongest Sandwings are truly the greatest power to rise on this continent. We will be crushing their prophecy and cementing the rule of our kingdoms. The Dragonets standing in front of Peril were nervous, eyeing each other after taking a frantic look at the opposing dragon's fiery body. It seemed as though smoke seemed to emanate from her red-hot scales, heating up the very air around the group. "We all know why you are here," Vermilion continued, causing the crowd to start to roar. "Our champion will end this war once and for all. The Skywings and Sandwings shall reign." The Dragonets of Destiny's faces grew pale as the stadium cheered louder than Peril had ever heard it. Both tribes that sat in the audience were chanting and hollering, preparing for a victory Peril could bring. The arena fighters sighed. These were just kids. But Scarlet always had her reasons. It's why she kept Peril alive, despite the way her scales betrayed her in more ways than one. As the Skywing looked toward her foes and saw the way they each nodded at each other, shakily but an attempt at surely, she bowed her head. "This is going to hurt me more than it will hurt them. At least they have the easy part of dying when I have to live with their looks. Scarlet has her reasons. So does Burn. I'm sorry, Dragonets of Destiny. I hope you know I wouldn't do this if I didn't have to." Peril unfurled her wings, casting a glow of heat to radiate in every direction. She stiffly dug her claws into the sand, taking a breath before she would tackle them all. "I'll make it quick," she tries to say with her eyes. Peril was unsure if any of them even noticed her sadness, as she had gotten so good at hiding every part of herself, not just her tail's foreign colors. However, in an instant, everything began to fade. A shadow was cast over the arena's top, quicker than sundown could ever provide. The world turned dark in nearly an instant, clouds overhead becoming shrouded by a different kind of inky black. There were dragons soaring overhead, or rather, swooping down. They were headed right toward the Dragonets of Destiny, and Peril herself. These were Nightwings, but larger than the ones standing in front of her. They towered over the pillars, landing on the arena floor for only a moment. "Hey!" the mud dragon shouted at one of them. "Let him go!" In the chaos, Peril had not even noticed that the one she was meant to fight was being lifted by heavy talons. Skywings and Sandwings in the audience were screaming, ducking away from large tails and the incoming wave of darkness that overtook the remaining bit of light that still hung over the kingdom. Peril's head whipped around wildly, trying to figure out what to do. "I could kill these Nightwings and then go after the Dragonets," she thought. "But I don't think I want to. They're going through enough right now, and their friend just got taken. And what about the mysterious dragon perched by Scarlet's side? Will she die too? I have to. What am I if I can't kill dragons?" Before Peril could question what she knew Scarlet would see as weakness, a net suddenly hooked against her leg. Though its ropes burned to the touch before a second could pass, the force of the blow had knocked her off her claws. Peril's head came crashing down against the large walls of the arena in the commotion, and her entire world disappeared in an instant. Consciousness came to the young dragon slowly, like the waves in the Sea Kingdom that Osprey had described to her. He flew there often before his tail became paralyzed, confining him to the dustiness and heights of the Skylands forever. Peril's head felt weighted, even though her thoughts were sluggish and heavy. "Ow," she breathed out, weakly rubbing a claw against her skull. When she blinked through the haziness, she was met with unmistakably warm eyes. "Osprey," Peril thought with a surge of hope. "I was just thinking about you." "I'm flattered your thoughts were on me after such a hit, Peril," Osprey said with a familiar smile and softness. "Oh," Peril realized with a flush of embarrassment. "I think I said that out loud." Osprey let out a small chuckle, seated beside Peril's somewhat prone form. Well, are you getting up, or did that 𝙈𝙤𝙀𝙬𝙀 knock some extra sense into you? Peril let out a quiet laugh, easing herself into a seated position. She blinked slowly at the space around her, recognizing it as exactly where she had fallen. Yes, Scarlet left you here, Osprey said, as though he could either read the young dragon's thoughts or anticipate her fears. Perhaps both. It came from their time together, so many years of closeness. She tried to have her guards take you into the palace's infirmary, but it was rather difficult considering your situation. She was about to return with fireproof armor, but I suppose that is no longer needed. Don't worry, everyone has vacated the premises. I doubt they even saw you pass out with the frenzy of those dragons landing. Small blessings, I guess, Peril thought with a scoff. A tiny part of her heart panged at the realization that Scarlet did not care enough to be by her side as she woke up. The Skywing had just been face first in the sand, alone if not for her teacher's unshared by others' compassion. I do think you care more than just about that, though, the elder said softly. Well, tell me about it. Peril scrunched her nose. It's nothing. Well, clearly it's something, or you wouldn't be making that bunny face right now. What? Peril replied, offended. I don't look like a rabbit. Osprey only laughed in response, nearly blinking back tears. You do that all the time when something is bothering you. I've seen mountain bunnies before. If I could show you one right now, its expression would perfectly mirror yours. Peril could hold on to her offense very little at the thought that popped into her head upon the comparison. Sighing in mock defeat, the young dragon looked up at the stars visible above. It was a cloudless night, light pouring onto the arena pit only due to the delicate moons hanging in the sky. So much peace over such senseless violence within the kingdom's walls. Do you want to talk about it? Osprey asked suddenly, redirecting Peril's focus. The fighter frowned, picking at burning sand with her talons. I don't know, Peril began softly. I just saw something today that bothered me, I guess. And I know none of this is supposed to get to me because I'm just following the orders of my queen, but the way those dragonets looked at each other, I've never had anyone look at me that way. It's not even a sense of knowing and love I've seen around the palace. They were so trusting. They wouldn't have given up, whether they knew who I was or not. And when their friend got taken, it was all they cared about. Not if one of those 𝙈𝙤𝙀𝙬𝙀 came down and kidnapped one of them too, or not that I'd burn them while they were looking away. All that mattered was the safety of their group, but they were so different from one another. And I saw the way they eyed their friend, the one Scarlet has in chains by the viewing throne. She's not supposed to be here, Osprey. None of them are. They're just kids. What could they have done to deserve seeing each other die? What could anyone with that kind of love do to earn such a fate? The old Skywing nodded slowly. I saw the way they looked at that RainWing, he said. Peril furrowed her brow. What's a RainWing? She thought to herself with the slightest hint of unease. Osprey gave a small smile. I've never said this before, but I've seen the way your tail switches. It doesn't take a genius to tell why you were hatched as the way you are, Peril. Not when you're someone like me, who has been around the continent before my time here. Truthfully, I was the only Skywing to watch you play in your nursery. It's hard for a dragonet to hide who they are, both with their heart and their outward scales. Part of me believes it's because we're meant to be as we're hatched, and no different. That core part that makes us who we are is something we should wear on our bodies if we can. And yet, this world attempts to require conformity. But before you were forced to change the colors of your tail, you giggled, weights lighter. You were right upon your initial assumption, Peril. I could see it in your eyes all those hours ago. That dragon, perched upon the pavilion, is like you. In more ways than one, truly. No matter what Scarlet tries to say, you were hatched the right way. Peril stared at Osprey in confusion, nearly breathless. Wait, she began. You said I'm like that dragon with the changing scales. Am I? Before Peril could continue, however, large orange wings descended upon the pair. A handful of Skywing guards came toward them, grumbling as they attempted to scoop Peril up with their fireproof gloves. "Got it," she huffed, wobbling to stand on her own. Before Peril was escorted to the palace infirmary, she took one last look at Osprey, who only smiled at her, before focusing on the dragon abandoned by Scarlet's throne. And for a short second, Peril swore she saw the RainWing open an eye to look at her. "I have to find out who she is," the fighter thought to herself. "I need to find out who I am." Peril had never seen so much fire spit out of Scarlet's mouth. "Your idiocy embarrassed me in front of the entire 2 kingdoms!" the queen roared, heating the room. Peril shifted slightly, bowing her head in shame. "I'm sorry, your majesty," she began. "When the Nightwing showed up, I didn't know what to do. You're supposed to do what I allowed you to be hatched for, you worm. I expected a thrilling fight, no matter what had gotten in the way. I'd never seen such weakness from you, my supposed champion." Peril exhaled softly. "It won't happen again." "You say that," Scarlet started, "but we don't have another chance. I already lost one of my prophecy dragonets last night because you refused to lay a talon on any of them or the invaders. What's next? I pit you up against the remaining few and you all hold hands and make friendship bracelets? This was no accident, Peril. You chose to disobey me. So I'm going to choose to take something from you in return." Peril furrowed her brow. What could Scarlet be talking about? "You know, I watch you. I make sure you do exactly as you're told, because that is your purpose in this kingdom. You're lucky I even let you draw breath. So to see you communing with the moronic, pathetic Osprey, instead of marching right back into the dungeons to finish the job, shows where your loyalties lie. Yes, Peril, I watch you. I am the closest dragon to a mother you will ever have. I am the one who deserves your love. But if you care about Osprey so much, you will give me the greatest show this kingdom has ever had today. Or else Osprey will be losing far more than just his ability of flight. He'll lose his entire life while I make you prove your loyalty that way in the arena." Peril's heart sank, fluttering with the sense of fear the dragon had never experienced prior. She's going to make me kill Osprey if I don't fight those dragonets? And if you pull any kind of stunts, I'll be thrilled to drop his corpse onto your scales from the tops of the clouds. At those words, Queen Scarlet stormed off into her living quarters, leaving Peril's tail to go white for no dragon eye to see. The arena fighter paced around her room, anxious. The guards refused to let her see Osprey, who was chained in the dark corners of the deep palace prisons. It's so stupid, Peril thought with a low growl. And why does Scarlet say she loves me? If she did, she wouldn't threaten to hurt the one dragon that actually doesn't run away screaming at the sight of me. Was Osprey right? Do I really have some other kind of purpose that isn't this one? Or has Scarlet been correct all along about me? I mean, so what if my scales can sometimes shift? The rest burn. They poison dragons by their presence. How am I supposed to be something so beautiful even my body projects it clearly, when I'm forced to hide and to hurt? I know what I have to try. I'm going to talk to that RainWing. She's the only hope I have. And if she tells me I'm not like her, and that I'm the problem, that'll be it. I'll listen to Scarlet forever, like I always have. I'll never question a single order from my queen again. But I could see the way Osprey looked at that RainWing last night. I need to see my future, and I think this dragon is the only way I'll know who I'm meant to become. This is it. I just have to find a way up to her. The arena was empty, dragons stood with their families hours before the grand fight. A storm brewed dangerously overhead, the skies on the brink of mass rainfall. Peril worked hard to slip past every soul in the palace, letting lies slide off her tongue about the purpose of going back to the center stage. When she arrived in the large sand pit, the RainWing dragonet was still there, motionless, silent. She looked dead, though in a more peaceful way than Peril had ever seen death manifest before. No burns, no sorrow, just beauty. Peril anxiously flew up to the small tree the RainWing was chained onto. If the RainWing heard her land on the wooden platform, she surely made no indication of it. The fighter's throat began to close, mind losing the words. This is your last chance, Peril, she thought. You fought period's greatest warriors and brought their charred heads to the throne with ease. Why are you suddenly terrified of some kid? Peril said, clearing her throat. Are you all right? There was quiet for a long moment, not even a twitch coming from the RainWing. Finally, after Peril had been holding her breath so long she grew lightheaded, the responded. No one here has asked me that. Oh, Peril said. I'm sorry. You know what? I think it was a mistake I came over here. The RainWing shook her head, now opening the same eyes Peril spotted briefly the night before. To answer your question, I guess I'm all right as I can be at the thought of my friends being in cages by your queen. Aren't they still the dragon that you're supposed to murder today? Peril paused. Yes. And I could lose everything I have if I don't. Then why talk to me? The RainWing asked. I'm not going to give you my permission. I don't even have a say in the matter. Peril shook her head slowly as the first rumble of thunder bellowed in the heavens. It's actually the opposite, if you can believe it. I know we got off on the wrong talon yesterday, but I saw something in your friends. Something that made me go against everything I was hatched to do. The colorful RainWing raised an eyebrow, curious. I was talking to someone last night. He's basically the closest thing I've ever had to a friend, I guess. He told me that I'm like you, and I'm supposed to show my true self out to the world. But in a palace where I live only to kill, am I really even anything else in the first place? Not even the scales on my body match sometimes. Part of them are like yours, changing with feelings and thoughts. I've never heard of anything like that before. But then I saw you across the arena, and I saw the way your friends looked at you, wide-eyed and worrying, like they wanted you safer than anything in the world. I just don't know if I can ever be that way for another dragon. Am I really what my queen makes me do? Peril fought back tears, hoping deep inside the other dragon could not see them before they sizzled against her red cheeks. Glory lifted her head. Show me your tail, was all she said at first. Peril froze. What? Show me your tail. You said it was like mine, except it doesn't match you. I want to see. Peril nodded slowly, unfurling it from behind her back. She usually kept those scales hidden by her wings in case she was too weak to hide their colors. Glory stared as the fighter let her hues alter, shifting to a shade of blue seen in the sky mere hours ago. I know what it's like to only be seen by your scales, Glory said. I grew up in a place where I was taught my mind and body were weak just because I was myself. So, in a way, we're alike. But right now, we're not. Peril stayed silent on the stone part of the floor. What do you mean? I mean that you're letting dragons like your queen define who they think you should be. You told me you've rethought your position here, especially killing my friends. You said that skywing from last night told you it's not how you have to be. You're better when you're the truest version of yourself. So, what's stopping you? Peril struggled to find the words, anxiety swelling in her brain. My queen, she replied. Scarlet. She's the only dragon who took me in. She let me live. She told me from the start that I'm who she needs me to be. But is she ever who you needed her to be? Glory asked. Peril froze. I don't think she ever has, the dragon thought suddenly. I don't think Scarlet has ever cared. She says she loves me, but if she did, she would care about me unconditionally. And I don't think I'd be killing dragons for a mother. She's never been who I need. I'm who she needs to do the unspeakable acts most dragons would rather die than embrace. I think Osprey was right about this, RainWing. I think he was right about me. But how do I get out? She asked, worry seeping in again. How does any of this stop? Glory hesitated. You need to do more than leave here physically. You need to end this mentally, too. That's what I try to do, even when it's hard. Sometimes I feel like only the lazy RainWing my guardians told me I was, even though I knew it wasn't true. Especially when I knew it wasn't true. My friends are always there. We're the dragonets of destiny. We forge our own paths. We're who we were hatched as, just like you. You defied every odd and falsehood your queen said about you by just flying up here to talk to me right now. If you were some bloodthirsty champion whose scales only matter one way, you wouldn't be doing this right now. Droplets of rain began to drip from the cloudy skies, the intensity of the growing storm increasing every second. Each ounce of water sizzled into steam upon falling against Peril's scales. For Glory's, they slid off gracefully. Do you really think I could leave with your friends? Peril asked. I don't want this. Any of it. I understand that now. And myself. Glory let out a small smile, tugging at her chains gently. Not unless you can somehow get me out of here and free my friends from where they are in the sky ledges. Peril nodded enthusiastically, expression confident. I can do that. With one swift hiss of heat and the wrapping of Peril's talons around metal, the bars holding Glory to the ground began to melt. But at the first close shot of lightning, Scarlet's furious face entered Peril's view. You coward, she screamed, preparing to take flight. Get away from my RainWing! Listen to me! I made you! We gotta go, Glory said, motioning for Peril to take her attention away from the ruthless queen. My friends are up there. You can free them while I distract Scarlet, and then once we're out of the storm, we can start looking for Starflight. Starflight? Peril asked. Our friend that was abducted by the rest of his tribe. Come on, we have to hurry. I can buy you some time while you get them free. Peril took a deep breath before launching herself into the sky, rain lashing at her entire body. She located each of the prophecy dragons and singed what held them bound. They looked up at her, curious and shocked. I'll explain later. Follow your friend and me out of here. Let's go! Scarlet was faster than Glory, however. But before the vengeful queen could sink her teeth into the RainWing's side, Glory extended the fangs Peril had only seen barely peeking out of her mouth mere moments ago. A dark, corrosive liquid shot out from them, aimed directly towards Scarlet. As lightning struck a pillar of the palace, the venom reached its target. It splattered all across the Skywing Queen's once beautiful face, scarring every inch of scale and tissue. Scarlet screamed, mortified and pained. She tumbled backward in the sky, falling into two of her guards. The rest swooped in against the heavy rain, rushing to the queen as she fell. Peril caught a quick glimpse of the blood on Scarlet's face, before Glory yelled at her to follow. The RainWing's voice was barely audible, a result of the mix of thunder and horrible shrieks. All the prophecy dragonets but the missing Nightwing flew up into the sky, Peril eventually sliding into a steady pace in front of them, due to her large wings. A tiny part of her wanted to dive back into the arena and help Scarlet, if she was even alive. Should I care? Or is Glory right? Do I need to move on? She was going to kill those dragonets, and now, if she made it, she's going to hurt Osprey. All because of me. Maybe he'll hide in the reading cave and escape her claws for now, or maybe he'll want to face Scarlet, to take her wrath from me. I don't deserve Osprey. I'll come back for you, friend. I promise. I hope you know that for now. But as Peril soared away from the only home she ever knew, she felt a sense of odd comfort begin to spread across her mind and scales. Every few minutes, one of the dragonets she was traveling with asked each other if they were okay. Even her. She had real friends looking out for her now. They would find Starflight, Peril determined. It was the least she could do for them, saving her life and soul. For the first time ever, the Sky Rain Dragon refused to look back at the mountains. Rather, she focused her attention on craning her neck so that her gaze could fall on her tail. It was yellow. I guess some Skywings are yellow, she thought. But that's not me. I'm more than red. I'm more than hurt. I'm the dragon who's going to change the lives of the individuals I care about. My family wasn't the dragon who told me who I needed to be for her, even when she was never what I needed for me. My family is what I make it. My life is what I make it. I am who I was hatched to be, someone dragons can love. I will do everything in my power to make sure everyone on Peril understands that too. I may not be part of this prophecy, but I've heard its words sung from the pillars a few times. The power of Wings of Fire is us. Oh my goodness, I love what I did with this story! I wish this reality was similar to what happened in book 1. But of course, Peril found family in a different way in the series. Still, I adored hearing this what-if concept for the first time, and I just had to make a tale of it. Get it? And for anyone wondering why Peril is a hybrid here, Kestrel mated with Chameleon while he was in his RainWing form. That could be a story itself, with a potentially different young Kestrel. But I hope you all enjoyed this very special story. Thank you again so much to Starry Skies for making the art. But that's pretty it for this video. What was your favorite part? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!